So, hello, Tim.
Hey, Mickey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. You were the first person I ever met when I moved here.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So, I know you moved to Pittsburgh now, but I know you're from here?
Yeah, originally from Greensburg, born, raised, educated.
The whole deal? Okay.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been playing music? How did you get started doing this?
I got started playing music in 1995, is my senior year in high school. Right toward the end of it, my friends were in a band called 12 Cup Automatic Drip Filter Coffee Maker, and 12 Cup for short. And my friend Dan Deemer, he played guitar, and my friend Nathan Martin sang. And they wanted a bass player, and they asked me to play bass. And I didn't have any idea how to play music at all. And they invited me over to try out, and I couldn't do it at all. I couldn't even hold the bass properly. I had to lay it across my lap and then pressed with my fingers instead of holding the neck and grabbing at the strings like I was pressing, and it was horrible and sloppy, and I was really no good at it at all. And I went home, and my mom said, how'd it go? And I said, it was horrible. I couldn't do it at all. I want to go out and buy a bass, and I want to buy an amp, and I want to play bass. And so that's how it started.
Okay. So who were some of your early influences?
I suppose it's just the music I was listening to at the time. Dan Deemer, rest his soul, was huge and instrumental in me learning. He basically just taught me the tablatures, showed me how to read, and taught me the tabs for the music that they had written for the band. And then I was listening to a lot of different music, a lot of hardcore music at the time, a lot of metal music, which inspired our songs that we wrote together. But I really fell in love with the bass stylings of Nate Mendel, who plays for Sunny Day Real Estate, or did play for Sunny Day Real Estate. And so that was like the major bass influence, but lyrically or trying to sing, I guess musicians like Mark Kozalek, and even just like, what's his name, Bono, and Shannon Hoon, Jeremy Ennick. Yeah, just there's a lot of...
Okay. So last summer you recorded a CD, Meta Movement. You recorded it here at Blue Sofa?
Yeah. Was
this your first CD?
I had previously recorded CDs on my own that were definitely mediocre, and certainly pale in comparison to what R.J. Dietrich is capable of producing here at Blue Sofa. So this is like the first CD that I'm really proud of and can listen to regularly and not be disappointed in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Hey, thanks.
So who plays on this besides yourself?
Oh, so a lot of people. There was for Meta Movement, the title track, there were about almost 30 of us that individually sang the chorus of We Must Love Each Other, which was a really cool project. Ed Skiro plays lead guitar. Kelsey James sang incredible harmonies on Anything You Need. Yeah. My friend Ty Sobzak from, I apologize if I pronounced his last name wrong, but Ty plays accordion. Sean Burrill plays banjo. RJ played keys and sang harmonies. I don't want to forget anybody, but Laura and Derek Graziano, who live in Asheville, both were here visiting, and they added cello and hammered dulcimer on Anything You Need. So I think I've got just about everybody, but they're all mentioned in the liner notes if I forgot anyone.
So what's your songwriting process? How do your songs usually come about?
Well, they usually start with a riff, and so then I'll just play that riff and say, oh, wow, I really like the way this sounds. And sometimes I'll just start finding a melody using just sound or like saying nonsense or but then suddenly, especially with these songs on this record that are more like hip hop kind of delivery, like rhythmic, and they seem to just come. Like it'll start with the first lyric, and then suddenly it starts flowing and keeps coming. And sometimes, it comes so quick that the pen can't move quick enough. The thoughts are just coming and
flows,
and it's like, oh my gosh, here's another one, and so. Yeah, it's a really magical process when that levee breaks and suddenly the creative energy keeps coming. And there's times where I think, oh, it's over, the song's over, and then it's like, no, it's not, and it just keeps coming because there's like more that needs to be said, I guess.
Right. Do you consider your music to be folk, or how would you describe it?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think it is folk in that, like, I mostly play on my own, so I play an acoustic guitar most times and sing, so it's folk. I kind of deemed it kind folk. I guess I like to play on words, and the music is I try to share and embody kindness and put kindness into the music, so I call it kind folk.
Okay. I know you follow the Buddhist philosophy. Your songs seem to reflect that. How big a part does that play in your songs?
It's pretty huge, especially on this album. And the Buddhist teachings, of course, like, I try not to get too identified with them and like go around calling myself a Buddhist or anything. And when one studies, I think, pretty much any of the great sages or prophets, like, they start understanding that the teachings are universal. So I try to share it in that way where I don't want to come across as someone who's preaching Buddhism. I think that if you really break it down and analyze it, you would see that it's promoting a universal idea that Christ taught, that Buddha taught, that it's in every faith. It's in Islam, it's in Sufism, it's in Judaism, it's in everything. And it's just this idea of like universal love and compassion for all beings.
So let's talk metta movement. Explain what metta means to those who don't know.
Metta is a Pali word. And Pali was the language that the Buddha spoke in. And roughly translated, it means loving kindness or loving friendliness. And it is a meditation practice that we begin extending this like love to ourselves and accepting ourselves as we are, and then begin radiating it to other people. And after a time, there is a very clear feeling, a very clear sensation of what this love feels like. And so you begin to focus on the love, this feeling, this sensation, and then envision your family, your friends, the people that you just randomly meet, whole cities, country, continent, world, all being seen, unseen. And so that is the idea of metta, is this idea of extending this loving kindness to all people, all beings.
This is the song also, Metta Movement, which is the album is named for too, is I really like. That's really catchy. It's like a sort of transcendental folk rap. I think you might have invented your own musical genre with that one. How did this particular song get started?
Actually, the chorus, "We Must Love Each Other," came spontaneously at a drum circle with really beautiful friends that used to live here who have since moved. And we were drumming late one night, and it was a call and response where it was like, "We must," and then everybody else would be like, "Love each other." And so that was stuck in my mind for years. And then one day I thought I should do something with this, and played it, and then suddenly, loving unconditionally, it just started. And it took a really long time to complete that song. I can't remember exactly. I know it was at least a year before I was staying in Pittsburgh, which I think is interesting how just being in different environments can inspire you differently. And so the end of the song finally came when I was staying at my friend Pat's house and sitting on the back porch, and the only solution's not being part of the... the only solution's not being part of the problem.
Huh? One of the lyrics to that is, from Buddha to Gandhi and every prophet in between, you'd think by now we'd understand what the teachings really mean. That spoke to me because I've always felt the same way. The song seems to convey almost an impatience with humanity for not understanding that things don't have to be the way they are. Do you feel that impatience?
I think I had more impatience before because I was putting so much focus on external, and the lyric is definitely calling out, and I think it's important to kindly, point out and call attention to things, and I think there's a really big responsibility laying on the shoulders of people who lead religious institutions, that anyone that is kind of a spokesperson or representative of a religion, I feel it very, very important that they practice the teachings as they were taught, and not be so much about carrying on the lineage through for lack of a better word, regurgitation or repetition. Like, we could talk about these things forever, but it's the leaders of every religion who need to start really embodying those teachings, and so that their followers can see what the results are of really grabbing and touching the essence, the deepest essence of these teachings. And because the only thing that's there is loving kindness and respect and tolerance and all these wonderful, beautiful qualities that get lost when we just talk about it and say, well, I'm Buddhist, you're Christian, I'm right, you're wrong. And that game's got to stop, because beneath all of it, it's all one thing, it's all the same, and it's just this one embodiment of love.
It's also a plea for love and understanding, but more than that, it seems you're talking about a shift in consciousness. Do you think what you sing about in the song is possible, and what do you think would precipitate that shift?
Well, I feel that the line in the middle of the song at the bridge, I know to say so sounds so simple, and when in reality the practice can be oh so difficult. But really, the next line saying but that doesn't mean it's impossible unless we never try. That the only way that this won't happen is if people don't try. So as individuals, as I said, I was focusing on the external before. When you start focusing on the internal, when you start focusing on yourself, and you start realizing that if the only solution is not being a part of the problem, then the only problem is not being part of the solution. So I have to be part of the solution. I have to come out of my own hate. I have to come out of my own greed and realize this state of unconditional love. And then once I can demonstrate it and prove it to myself, then I'm not going to have the expectation that others do it, but I know that it's possible.
Right. Because if it's possible for you, it's possible for everyone.
That's how I feel, because I don't feel like I'm anything different or special, or I wasn't given anything, maybe different sets of circumstances or conditions that helped foster this growth, but at the same time, it's been a lot of hard work.
Okay, on Where Do I End, you have a whole lot to say.
Yeah, I do.
A whole lot. It has kind of a reggae feel to it, as well as a really fast lyric timing. Did you do that because you had a lot to say in this song, or the other way around?
I don't know. It was crazy. Actually, I'm going to give a shout out to two people, but I saw Jack Wilson and Derek Norgren. His goes by Dums of the ACL Audio Composer League, and they put on a show the night before I started writing that song, and I was just listening to how they the rhythm of their voice, and the sound system wasn't so hot that night, but I could hear this and I was like, and Derek told me before he'd hear my songs and say, you need to say more. So the next day I was actually in the process of moving out of an apartment, and I wrote that first line. it's a tragedy to see people continue to believe that change can come meaningfully through violent means. And it was like totally Martin Luther King inspired that first line. And when I first did that, I was like, what was that? Like, you know, so those two fellas are just incredible musicians. They're so brilliant, and they really inspired me to try. And like I said, Derek said, you need to say more. And so I was like, okay, here's a shot at saying more. I'm going to say it like you.
It almost reminds me of that Bare Naked Ladies song. I can't think of the name of it, but they do like a really fast kind of type of thing that you were doing in yours. And it reminded me of the same type of timing for that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a song about the effect of words and thoughts on what you call in the song continuous creation.
Yeah.
So it's actually appropriate for the words to go as fast as they do. I can really hear the Buddhist philosophy in this one. This is also another song about peace and unity, also intention. Is this song sort of a warning to all of us to pay attention to that?
Yeah, I feel that what's interesting about this song was that it was actually coincidentally inspired by Buddhism, because I hadn't yet really immersed myself in the teachings. And it was really inspired a lot by some thoughts and ideas in What the Bleep Do We Know, that documentary about quantum physics. And I know it's controversial, but everything is. So, but there were some really cool ideas in there that started resonating with me, and I started contemplating. And then I met monks, and then I took the documentary to them, and we watched together, and we were just both like, wow, like the parallels between Buddhist philosophy and this quantum physics are so perfectly spot on. And but yeah, like I went to a retreat, and I went to two, like pretty much back to back, like within a month of each other. They're 10-day silent retreats called Vipassana meditation. And the second one, after I left, I had this really, really strong realization that I was carrying along a lot of baggage, like an excess baggage in my, what they call the subconscious mind, and that I never got to see before until I started practicing this technique. And so when I left the meditation center and I was sitting by a small river, I wanted to tell everybody that I knew to be careful, you know, of what you think and say and do, because these things cause lasting imprints or impressions, whether it be personal, that, you know, the things we think about ourselves, or what we think about others, or what we say to others and what we do to others. Like, we can really cause people and ourselves a lot of harm that in the end is really unnecessary and just causes us a lot of unnecessary suffering.
Who is Dr. Emoto that you sing about in this song?
He's one of the really controversial ones, I guess, because he's this Japanese scientist that started photographing the formation of water crystals using different conditions to see if different conditions influenced the shape of the crystals. And so while his research is being subject to criticism, as it should be. If you look at the book, there's one called Hidden Messages in Water, and like they'll like even write words like on a label and put it on side of the bottle of water, and it'll say like love, and they'll photograph the crystals forming, and they're absolutely beautiful. And then you put like, I hate you, I want you to die, and like the crystals can't even form.
Wow.
So he was showing that, you know, the written word, the vocal word, the intention, like they had a group of different monks and priests like pray over water that was polluted, and the water turned out beautiful and perfect, these crystals. And so it's like,
wow.
Whether or not it's 100% foolproof or whatever, I don't know. But at the time when I wrote the song, I just thought it was such an inspiring way to illustrate this idea that our thoughts, actions, and words have profound impact on things, even on a physical level.
So now we'll talk about Anything You Need.
Yeah.
The song. So, just wanted to make sure I clarified that.
Yeah, thanks. Because I was about to start asking.
Yeah. So, this is a really joyous love song. It also sounds like one of your most deeply heartfelt. Is this about a particular person?
Actually, it's funny. I was playing the song for a new friend of mine the other night, and she had the same reaction, you know, that it seems like a love song about a particular person. And I actually wrote the song after I went through a really challenging period of time. It was in my breakdown, like, 'cause I think we go through periods of breakdowns and then we build ourselves back up, and there are opportunities. And this time I was sitting on the stoop of the old skateboard shop that I ran for a while in Greensburg in Florida, but and I was looking at all the people as they drove by. I would do this regularly, just like watching people drive by, and I'd look at the look on their face, you know, and I started seeing what I perceived as so much sadness and so much just hard, you know, so much suffering. And so when I started seeing this, I actually wrote that song on the stoop, back against the wall, like in the sun, thinking like if I could do any one thing, I would love to be able to help that in whatever way I can. And so it's actually a general, very love that I want to share with the world, but you know, it would be equally applicable to just an individual. Should I or have I met one? Yeah.
Right. Okay. One of the things I like about this song is the layering on of instruments and harmonies. It builds to this really awesome crescendo. That's a great arrangement. Do you do most of your own arrangements? And if so, is it fully formed in your head when the song is getting written?
Not so much when it's written. This project definitely was like RJ and I just letting it kind of unfold in the studio. There are times where I can hear things, like hearing Kelsey, but even what Kelsey did on the record, you know, I left the room and RJ and her were in the room, and like when I came back and heard, I was just like, whoa, like, yeah. So like there was a lot of like being loose, and like there's a lead in there that that Ed plays that is incredible, and like it's like right before the crescendo, like he does this like crazy like math rock. I watched him play it and his fingers were stretched, and I was just like, man, what you're playing right now is unbelievable. And you know, that was never preconceived, but it's like hearing it, like I love to play bass still yet, so like the bass line starts coming together. RJ added the keys, and you can start feeling where the song's moving. And yeah, you could resist it, you could probably rewrite it, you could do it a million different ways, but we were really happy with the way it unfolded.
Right, why resist it?
Yeah.
So this has a cello on it as well. It really adds a richness to the song, even though it's sort of in the background. What made you decide to have the cello?
Well, I knew I wanted a cello part for sure, and the fact that our friends Derek and Laura Graziano, they go by the Nomadic Minstrels. They are doing quite well for themselves with music in Asheville, North Carolina, and actually Derek builds dulcimers. But I just knew that I've always wanted Derek for sure to play on the record, and then I was like, but I've always wanted a cello, and I was like, well, maybe the two of them will want to come and play, and it just was coincidental that they were around that period of time, and they came into the studio and did it. But yeah, it's just that instrument's so beautiful, and they're such beautiful people, and I don't like to get too new agey or anything, but they're just having their energy in the record is really, I'm very grateful.
And I also saw on your list of people who were on the song a woman named Kelsey James, who you were talking about before, who sang harmonies. And I got to say, wow, that's a great voice. It really adds to that building crescendo and gives it a real punch. Are these all people who you've known for a while, or just sort of recruited for this?
Well, like Derek and Laura, I've known for quite since the skateboard shop, so I lose track of time when I meet people, but I would say at least 6 years, 7 years. Kelsey I met through Ed, actually, when Ed and I were rehearsing for a performance in Pittsburgh, and we sang together that day, and I was just blown away, like, because he can just be like, tell her like you should go for this note or whatever, and she'll just like do this little like la, 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 and then like boom, like Aretha Franklin suddenly is in the room.
Yeah,
and you're like,
right. Yeah.
And she was, the time I met her, she was still in high school, and I was just blown away by her. And so we never worked together outside of that one time. But as soon as the record was coming together, and I reached out and was like, I would love for you to come sing on the record if you would be willing. And she was really excited too. So. Yeah.
Awesome. When I was listening to that song and the building crescendo, and like when she came in, it was just like whoop, went right up a level.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, the first times that and it still does from time to time, but the first times I was listening to that song, when she comes in, I just start weeping. Like, it's it makes me want to cry. Yeah,
that's awesome. So let's talk Karma.
Okay.
Again, the song. So what kind of bell is that goes off at the beginning of the song?
That's a Tibetan singing bowl. Actually, my wonderful roommate and friend Joel Brown gifted me that singing bowl, and I wanted something to set that song apart from the rest of the CD. And that bell
sounds so good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That's a really great melody, too. I think this one is going to stick in my head the most. Did you use echo on your voice? Because it sounds really sort of haunting and like a mystical quality to it. What did you do for that?
I don't know how much reverb or that RJ adds. I think he added a little bit, but it was mostly that I doubled it. Like, I sang the part twice, and I was happy with it as one track. Like, there's no harmony in there. It's just the two voices like singing the same part. But when we added the second take to it, we were just both like, wow. Like, it just sounds really calm and comforting.
Yeah.
And I think it's the track on the CD that when I listen to my voice, because we're always our own critics, and I really enjoy the feeling that voice brings. And it's at the end of the record, because the newer record is more that direction, just more soft and gentle, and not so much hip hop anymore. Like, that stuff's kind of out of my system. But
well, this one too also has kind of a 60s feel to it, kind of a psychedelic thing. And I think the accordion adds to this, which was interesting to me because you normally don't associate an accordion with psychedelia. Was that your idea, to put the accordion on?
Yeah, I basically I reached out to Ty, who's a new friend that I met through a really wonderful friend of mine, Maggie O'Toole, who's also a great musician, and met him and just said that these are the songs I want you to play on for sure. I want, if you can find parts, and then, if there's anything else you want to do. And I can't remember 100% if we agreed on that, but I was pretty certain ahead of time that I asked him to play on Karma, and he played brilliantly. Like, it's just so wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds so natural in the song. Yeah.
And I think there was part of me that wanted harmonium before the record began, and I asked my friend who had one. He said, well, mine's broken, and I didn't know anyone else, and so it wasn't settling on a accordion. But when I heard Ty play, I was like, I think that feeling is, because in kirtan they use like harmonium, and it still has that very ethereal kind of transcendent feeling to it. And so Ty pulled it off. Like, I was listening to the record on the way here and just listening to him play, and I was like, you're so good, so good.
Yeah. I know you were using the killing of insects, or non-killing of insects, as a metaphor. You wrote this while you were in South Carolina spending the summer saving insects, among other things, I'm sure. So it is a literal thing as well as a metaphor, seems to me, for the Buddhist principle in life. It sounds like you were sort of in the proverbial metaphysical zone when you wrote this, with the melody blending perfectly with the meaning. Explain your thought process for this song.
The thought process was, I was living with two wonderful massage therapist friends of mine in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and working for a really wonderful woman named Chef Catherine Matthews at a really awesome little restaurant called Delicio. And I spent a lot of time alone that summer, not intentionally. It was just working out that way. And so I spent a lot of time contemplating a lot of things, and I wondered why every night I came home and I saw a cockroach, or they call them palmetto bugs, I guess. I would see it, and I know my roommates wouldn't appreciate it if they were awake, but they were always sleeping, and so at night, and so I would go to great lengths to save them, and it started making me wonder, some of these insects, was I putting them in a more perilous situation where they safer inside? If my roommates saw them, they might be, but am I really saving these animals? Am I not? And I started really questioning these things. And then so I started thinking about the idea of karma and how I feel that it's misperceived, that or I don't want to say misperceived, but misperceived according to the Theravadan Buddhist understanding of karma. So I wanted to present that and say that it's, when you look at karma as tendency and not as like cause and effect, but actually tendency, that the cause and effect arises out of just the tendency. So if I have the tendency to do certain things, there'll be that's the cause, and then there's an effect. So if I go around saying mean things to people all the time, eventually someone's going to say something mean back, or you're going to get punched in the face or something like that, Mm-hmm. So it's just that idea. And so for me, like, the song was just about coming to terms with, like, I'm not doing this to save me in any way. Like, I'm doing it to just save them. It's the idea that I'm trying to save these beings. And in the end, there is something that comes back, because... Can I share a little bit of another story?
Sure.
Quickly. Sure. Because, like, cockroaches are typically these disgusting animals, right? Mm-hmm. That's how we perceive them. Like, oh, you're disgusting. But I was sweeping the floor at work one night, and I was kind of upset about other things. Like, my mind was not settled. It was very agitated. And I saw a cockroach on its back. And when I saw it, I got upset. I was like, we live in this society where these animals have to die all the time. And so I swept it, and I swept it, and I swept, and I swept it out the door. And then I stopped, and I was like, whoa, there was a lot of aggression in that sweeping. Why? So I went outside, and I found it, and I picked it up and held it in my hand as it was dying. And it wasn't dying on my account. It was dying because, bug killers there. It might have been, the moment, and I might have been confused, but I really remember clearly holding this, like, what we consider a disgusting creature in my hand, which I would normally never do. And I watched its little head drop, and, like, almost as if we were looking eye to eye. And then I set it gently in the garden to let it pass. But that's where that line comes out about a little less fear, a little less hate. It's like coming out of this tendency of, I don't like that. Like, I don't like this, I hate that. It's like, the less we hate, the happier we can be.
Sure. Okay, well, this brings us to your new one, Down Presser Man. This sounds like a bit of a departure for you, at least to me. This has a really funky, bluesy thing going on. Did that happen naturally, or were you specifically going for that?
No, it's, it starts like, with the acoustic guitar especially, I'm very rhythmic, not really a super accomplished, like, lead guitar player in any way. So if one pays attention, they'll see that it's the same chord progression and a similar, like, strumming approach as Where Do I End? But it's capoed, so it changes the whole thing. But so it started like that, like, and at the time I was listening to some Peter Tosh and some other reggae music at the time, and I got really inspired to sing those words. And so as those words started coming, it still felt like there was all this space, and I was just getting more into harmonica again. I learned harmonica a long time ago, but just touched it. I'm not accomplished, but and I started trying to incorporate the harmonica part. And I think the harmonica is what takes it to that really bluesy. And then I've learned, got the foot tambourine thing going on, and the stomp. Someone the other night was telling me after I played that's like a very Americana, like, I can't remember what they called it, like the one drop, or I don't even know what they called it. They said it was something. And I was touched, like, even though I had no idea what they were really saying. Yeah, so it was just coincidental, like, and sometimes I think I understand somewhat of how you perceive the muse, and we've had a lot of discussions at the self-inquiry group, and knowing that sometimes, the music is writing itself through you, or the poetry is writing yourself through you, and you're just kind of letting go and creating the space. And so there was some other Tim out there, or whatever, however you want to say it, there was some other thing going on. I was like, I'm going to express myself in this way. Yeah,
that's how it came out.
Yeah,
I really like that song. This song also seems pretty self-explanatory. Down presser, sort of meaning pressing down on your mood or your positivity, sort of harshing your gig, dragging you down with cynicism, that type of stuff, the sort of misery loves company mindset, maybe. I can really relate to this. I've encountered many downpresser people in my life. You sound kind of pissed off in this song. Is this about a particular person or just sort of a general commentary? What specifically inspired you to write this?
Yeah, it's definitely not one person. It was definitely the spring, and I was sometimes when we are going through difficult times, we do start looking more externally. But at the time, I was really looking at considering how media in general, I'm talking like in so many ways, media is kind of designed to create a rift or a division between us. And so like, the downpresser man in this case is like that people seeking to create division. And like it's saying like, keep your dirty hands away from my heart. Like, and it's, just basically saying like, if you present a whole entire group of people as being one way, like through the media and saying like these people are bad, or create the impression that you should be scared of these people, or in any way that we're doing that, like we're perpetuating a division. And so for me, for us to achieve this level of harmony and unity and oneness, like it's calling the downpresser man out, and then giving advice at the end, saying basically be a sentinel. Like we have to be very careful of what we allow in to our minds and what we entertain, like because ultimately that's what we're going to become. That's the one thing Buddha says so clearly, is what we think we become. So if we start entertaining these ideas that we're all different, and that if you have this type of lifestyle, you're bad, and if you have this kind of religion, you're bad, and we start doing that, then the downpresser wins, because it keeps us divided instead of being able to work together. The downpresser needs us more than we need them.
You also play simultaneously harmonica and sort of a foot. What is that called?
It's a foot tambourine.
A foot tambourine, like all at the same time. It's almost like those guys that used to like have the whole band on their shoulders with the drum and the cymbals and the horn and because it seems like the song calls for like all those things to really give it that punch. Is that the first time you've used all those things together on a song like that?
Yeah. I started trying, I was playing with Sean Barillo in a project called Yellow Hat, and that's when I started acquiring these instruments, because it was just him on banjo and me on guitar, and so we started then he started playing like a bass drum while he plays banjo, which is mind-blowing. But I started acquiring those instruments, and that was the first song where I was like, let's put it all together and see what happens. You tap your foot anyway, so why not just put something percussive on it to like give it some sound? Right,
that's very cool. Do you like playing live, or do you prefer studio work?
There are times where I really love playing live. I think that the other night it illustrated to me that I do still love playing live. The studio time was absolutely amazing. It's challenging in a way that I can't really put into words, but it was so worthwhile, and being in the studio with RJ Dietrich and being here with his family, and just is incredible. And I recommend to anyone who's looking to record is to seek out this studio. Not only is it incredibly reasonably priced, but it's just high quality and like good vibes, such good vibes.
Right,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, so I want to get back in the studio again, and RJ and I were talking about possibly this winter writing the new record, but or not writing, it's really recording it. The songs are written, but yeah.
Cool. How do you feel about the traditional music business being affected by technology, by like people putting out their own music in studios like this one, bypassing record labels? What do you think the main drawback to that is, or is there a main drawback to that?
I guess it's just what you're into music for. I feel as though I don't think anyone would believe that the record that we just released is like something done out of a living room. It's so high quality, and like I've had musician friends tell me, like I'm not necessarily into what you're doing musically, but like that it sounds amazing. Right. The record's really well done. So on one hand, no, I can't say really there's anything bad about it. I feel that it allows for creativity. It really pushes the envelope because people can do things that are so simple or so whatever they want to do because they have access to home recording equipment. I don't really have an opinion. I've never really been in like a quote unquote big professional studio, and I have never had to talk to a record label. And while that's desirable on one hand, in the sense of just getting your music out there more and having more people hear it.
Access, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that, I feel that at times we can become lazy as musicians and think that we're entitled to be heard because we think our music's good or needs to be heard. And for myself, I've taken a really good break over the past year after we went on a tour and everything, and really let this sink in and now appreciate it and see that if you want something to happen, you're gonna have to do some work. And I would love to just like use this amazing record to send to like college radio stations and stuff like that, where those are the people that will help you get heard. I think is like starting there.
Right. So I know you live in Pittsburgh now, but you're a hometown boy, so what would you like to see happen in the Greensburg venue-wise?
I would like to see the community continue to make use of spaces like Deviate and really be grateful for Sean Burrell and Terry Burrell and what they're providing for the Greensburg community, to really see that it's special and that I've been in just a lot of cities and I've played a lot of open mics and things, and even our open mic that is in Greensburg is so special because it's a listening room. Like the people that go there are there to listen. It's not just to be social. It is social, of course, and we all like each other, but there's this respect in that room that we listen to the artist, and so start there, and keep fostering that growth and making more and more people in the community. And I can't change that. I can't make people want that.
Right.
But I would love to see that appreciation for local music and to really step away from commercial music and realize that commercial music only exists because someone else started as they did in a small town like Greensburg, Pennsylvania, or somewhere similar. Yeah, so, and then a venue opening that would be supported. Like, so the idea from my perspective is like a venue to eventually arise out of incredible support for local music.
Well, so you mentioned just now you're going to record again maybe over the winter?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have pretty much all your songs sort of ready to go for that? Are you still working on stuff?
Well, it's going to be a confusing thing for me to deal with, and I'm dealing with that confusion right now because I did 3 songs that are really heartfelt, like more personal, but still like applying like all the teachings that I've been exposed to. And so there's this, these are really spacey and soft, and like they have some dynamic shifts and stuff like that, but they just have this totally different feel, similar to Karma, just a lot more soft and like, but then there's Downpresser Man and this other new one I just finished that both have harmonica parts, and I'm just like, okay, wait a minute, like how am I gonna squeeze Downpresser Man into this record? So I'm tossing around different ideas, like, what if I just lived out the dream of doing like a vinyl record and just do like a single that is, Downpresser Man and something else, and then do like a short EP, maybe just 3 songs or 4 songs that are more spacey, and so I'm tossing around all those ideas right now, but it's really important to me to like have the songs flow like a playlist, that there's nothing that really jumps out at you and is like jarring unless you were intending to create that sensation. But especially when you have soft and then Downpresser Man. Yeah, it's like
that could work though.
It could just be like A-side, B-side, and like kind of like a cassette or a record, and then you could just even say A-side, B-side, and just have them still be sequential. But
we'll
see.
I think Hart did that with Dog and Butterfly.
Oh, really?
That the dog part was the dog side was really hard, the hard stuff, and the butterfly part was the softer.
Oh, cool
stuff. Yeah, so it's been done. I mean, it can be done.
Yeah. I mean, my friend the other night was just like, I don't think it matters, and I'm like, okay, like, because that's the thing. Like sometimes even something that simple, we get so stuck in our own idea, and then when you start putting it by other people, they're like, what are you talking about? It'll be fine. They're like, oh, okay, like they'll do it.
Right. Yeah. Outside perspective, right? Okay. Well, thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Okay.